Hi, everybody, and thank you, Tyler. Thank you for stepping in, for taking that session, and thank you for Faye for being able to jump in a little bit earlier as well. And I'm so pleased to now have Fiona Patten here. Hello, Fiona. How are you?
I'm well, thanks, Angela. How are you?
Good, thank you. So, Fiona is the founder and leader of the Reason Party and a member of the Victorian Legislative Council for the Northern Metropolitan Region. And we were really keen to get you into this session because we do want to talk about digital safety. We see this as a huge component of women's health, particularly now. And it's obviously been around for some time when we think about social media and how we're using social media, but it seems like it's been getting particularly vitriolic in recent months and years, and particularly for somebody in your position and other, particularly women generally who look to voice an opinion across these platforms. So we've called this session Digital Safety in a Post-Pandemic World. And I guess that post-pandemic world is also speaking to some of the hope and optimism that we hope to apply to be able to address this. This session, I might say, is also highly relevant as part of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. We cannot have some of the comments and the abuse that occurs on social media if we ever hope to be able to eliminate gender-based violence. And so, Fiona, I also note that last month you did quit social media for a period after receiving appalling abuse and from, as you put it, anonymous cowards on the internet. So again, we wanted to ask you about that decision. And that's where I might start today. Can you talk us about that decision to quit, and what were some of the responses that you received to that?
Look, it wasn't an easy decision, and it was one that, in fact, I think my team were not fully in favour of, and until we did it, until I just said, look, we need to stop. So it was bringing them along, but we needed to reset and rethink how we could communicate without spending hours and hours deleting and reporting trolls, and deleting and reporting revolting, aggressive comments and attacks on us. And so by actually having that reset, the response from most of my colleagues was really positive. Many of them just wished that they could do the same thing, because as a member of parliament, you need to be on all of the platforms, and you're there 24/7. And it's important. You could just turn off the comments, but that's not what a member of parliament should be doing. You're there to represent your community, so you need to hear from your community. So you can't just have a one-way conversation. So so we turned off for a few weeks and really thought about how we could better manage our social media, and how we could, I suppose, minimize the real, I think, emotional effect that it has on not just me, but really on my team, having to read not hundreds, but thousands of derogatory, misogynistic comments and messages.
Yeah, and the really unfortunate thing there as well is that when other women see those messages aimed at a high profile women, it turns them off from often considering trying to go into a high profile career, or even from looking to have a say and an opinion on social media from the outset. What were some of the things that in the few weeks that you took stock on that, what were some of the things that you discovered in terms of how you would approach this in perhaps a way that would support your health and well-being and the well-being of your team as well?
Look, one of the things was, and we took the decision, and I think this is actually important, not just from a safety perspective, but probably even from a legal perspective, that we took the decision that during the hours of the day that we could not actively moderate and monitor our social media, then at that time we actually did turn off comments. So while on the social media platforms that we could do that. So from during the hours of the day that we're in there, we're active, we would say this. So we actually turned off comments, and I think that was one of the things that we did. We became probably more aggressive with our reporting and deleting, but again, like that, that was incredibly frustrating for us as well. We tried to. A lot of people also came in to support us So we were getting lots of people coming in and combating some of the negative sort of conversations that were starting. But as you said, it actually still turns other people off. Like a lot of our supporters say, I just don't want to get, I do not want to step foot into any of those conversations. So it still has a silencing effect, and we really still haven't resolved that.
Yes, and sometimes I find also that people don't necessarily understand the mechanics of the platforms in terms of what you can actually do, that you can report abuse, that you can block people, but you can also mute people if you don't want somebody to see that you've blocked them. There are options in there. It does take a bit of poking around, and these platforms I always believe can do so much better, but at the same time there are at least some like basic safety protocols, and I encourage people to check them out if they don't know what they are. Is it the abuse, is it misogynistic, or what type of abuse is it typically? Can I ask this a broader question? Where do you think it's actually coming from?
That is I think a lot of it was concerted and was organised, and I think as an MP, and particularly in this time of pandemic, and I got very excited and optimistic when you were talking about post-pandemic world, but I'm not sure we're there yet. And certainly hearing today's news about new strains was not. It was not
okay.
very.
Yeah, no, I saw a headline. I did not click into that story. I was like, I don't think I've got the capacity yet to think about that. So yeah,
that's right. Have the weekend, but we. It is misogynistic, but I do think a lot of it was concerted. It seemed organised, and we would trace back. Sometimes we would trace back, and we would see that if you looked at the Twitter trolls, they all had one significant follower, and we would see hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of the people attacking us would all have that one significant follower. So these were organised campaigns for a lot of it, but they were misogynistic. They were and very sexualized. People seem that seemed to be their go-to when attacking me in particular. And I don't think it was just me. I think that's when they were attacking many of my female colleagues. So while my male colleagues may have been being attacked and being in the same sort of position of having these campaigns against them, they did not. It was not of the same sexualized and gendered approach, and we and I think that was everybody saw that, and it was relatively obnoxious.
Yeah, and I think a really clear example of that is with some of the ABC journalists, and you see how the male versus female ABC journalists are treated on the platform. Yeah. The other thing I might add there in terms of bringing up ABC, it's not necessarily from the right or the left, or is it quite broad? Is it leaving aside, say, where it just gets utterly misogynistic, as you say, but in terms of the full criticism and that need to just have a say on everything you do and criticize everything you do, which in some cases people might not see themselves as a troll. Perhaps they see themselves as, highlighting this for the rest of Australia or something. But is it coming from all sides?
Yes, it is. But right now, I think a lot of those campaigns are concerted, and this, and I would make a comment, on my social media. Well, I made a comment just recently about trying to campaign to clean up a lake in my electorate, and then there was just this spray about this sort of sexualized spray about something completely different. So we've got people just wanting your right to comment on anything, but not necessarily on the issue. There is these real campaigns to just attack us as MPs, and I say us because I'm not the only MP that is experiencing this. And what it does is also it encourages, or it gives permission for others, and we saw that kind of snowball effect where one person would say something, and then we would see another person kind of up the ante, and we would just see the escalation of abuse, not just to us but to anyone who may try and weigh into the conversation through comments or replies on our platforms.
Yeah, I think that as a tip that I'm sort of drawing out from you is this to think that this could be a concerted campaign. And I believe, I'm not sure in your case or what you would comment on this, that often there are bots involved. And I've seen that what I believe is occurring to some things that I've said online. And because I think, oh, surely the bots are only reserved for like the full, pro-Trump situation. Like
Yeah.
And I was looking at, say, things around the Melbourne Cup Day and horse racing when I looked at some of the comments that came through and had a look at their accounts and saw that they'd only been set up and saw that their only purpose was to comment on people who had criticized the event. I was like, wow, it's coming from all, and I don't know what that is or who's paying for it or why, but did you sense that as well?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And we saw that. And as I say, in like seeing that there would be one particular follow-up that remarkably all these people who had different views all seemed to have following them. Yeah,
Yep.
we could see we could see those links, and we could see those campaigns. And it and which makes it and it does make it really difficult, and it makes it for our team, it's just so time consuming. If you want to engage with your community and you want a safe and healthy place for people to disagree, to debate, to talk about issues, you just can't have that shit piling on not just you, but on anyone who wants to be part of that conversation. And this is really what we're struggling with. And even just coming on today to join this, there's the Parliament now has had to set up so many firewalls that I couldn't even access this forum to take part. I had to join with my phone.
Okay. So yeah, that is just adding extra infrastructure around everything. So on that note, I wanted to ask your thoughts on how what should we be doing more to hold social media giants to account? Is there anything good that you're seeing occurring there that can help support women through this?
Yeah, we definitely need to be holding them to account. And I think, as we know, and we've started to see media organisations becoming increasingly concerned about the comments that are placed on their platform, because ultimately they are now seen as the publisher of that comment and can now be liable under defamation legislation or other legislation. So we are starting to see cases that are requiring us to be more cautious about what we allow to be said on our platforms. I think social media platforms still have a long way to go, and anonymity is one of the big issues. The fact that people can be these anonymous cowards. But I'd also go back to, we've tried to establish anti-vilification legislation. Now we have great anti-vilification legislation around Australia, and in Victoria we have great anti-vilification legislation that protects people from being vilified on the grounds of their religion or their race or religion, but it doesn't protect you from being vilified on the grounds of your sex, of your sexuality, of your disability, etc. So I think expanding some of those vilification laws would be helpful. And I'd certainly like to see those further expanded. We prosecuted a man in Queensland, but we had to use a federal telecommunications piece of legislation, so which wasn't simple and straightforward. But I think some state-based legislation would start sending messages out that people are liable for their actions.
Fiona, just finally, what are some tips that you'd leave our audience with in terms of how you support your self-care when it comes to dealing with this online and I guess dealing with this in other aspects of your life as well, given the work that you do? How do you look after yourself?
Angela, it actually has been quite tough. Like, it actually has been quite a new and difficult experience. I've represented the adult industry. I've been on the sort of the side of a debate that can really ignite a lot of emotion, but I've never seen it not even tumble out of social media as we're seeing it today. So that the fact that MPs today, female MPs in particular, are having to be concerned about the safety of their homes. They're having to be concerned about the safety of their children when they go to school. This has got crazy, and we need to stop that. But from tips, they also don't read the comments. As an MP, it's my job to read them. It's my job to listen to what people are saying. So that's not terribly helpful. I think using the blocking tools that you can, using some of those tools where you can just block certain words, as we see on Insta and places like that. Like really looking at those tools that you can really try and control the comments that are made on your page. If people want to say those things, let them go and do it on their own page, but they're not to do it on your platforms. And in some ways, we've been trying to nip it in the bud. We try and always remain respectful. I really, hope that it is very rare that we come out and attack someone. So we always try and lead by example. That is not easy. Sometimes you just want to say something that in the light of day you shouldn't. As I said, when we can't moderate our pages, we are turning comments off where we can, and that also, I think, unfortunately, that doesn't help when our supporters or people who really want to have a sensible conversation, they can't have a conversation with us. But it does help the mental health and the well-being of my team, that they're not up at 2:00 in the morning blocking and deleting and reporting people.
Well, Fiona, we think you're amazing. Well done for taking this stand and speaking out about these issues. So it really supports the rest of us as well. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks, Angela. And thanks to Women's Agenda. I love your platform.
Thank you.